I heard a story that God shared with me through the Life Mastery Achievers class with Tim Hahn. It was in his free promotion before I even signed up. And it's a story about a man who was struggling in his business. His business was failing. And this was way back in the day. Times weren't great. He was a builder and nobody wanted anything built. Nobody could afford it. Prices on the materials were high. He was going deeper and deeper into debt and he couldn't pay what he owed. And he was distraught. He was a strong man that was really unhappy about losing his business and concerned about how he'd support his family, and he probably even had a fair amount of pride in that. It hurt to fail. Just failure in itself can be really painful. And so he was in the park one day in a dense fog. He's just walking, holding his head, trying to clear his mind from everything. And a guy came wandering up to him out of the fog, and he said, "How's your day going?" And the guy told him, he said, "My day is not going good. I'm struggling. My business is failing. I might lose my house, and I just don't know what to do about it." And the guy said, "It's really hard to hear." He said, "But I don't know if you recognize me. I'm Andrew Carnegie." He said, "Really?" He said, "Do you have any advice for me?" And the guy said, "I have more than advice. Here's a check for $100,000. I want to save your business." And so the guy with the business, with the construction company, he went home and astounded. Praising God. What a miracle. I hope I added that part of the story. But he went home just astounded. And he's like, "I'm saved. I'm going to make it." Back in the day, 100,000 was like $1 million. Andrew Carnegie was the richest man in the world. And jalapeno juice in my eye. That was worse than the eyelash. Spicy. Okay. So he went home with this check, but he didn't, like I said, there was a bit of pride there. He was kind of like me. He didn't want to take a bailout. He said, "I want to make it on my own. I want to succeed." He said, "What can I do here?" He's like, "What if now I know that I'm not going to starve. My family's going to be okay." He said, "What if I just go out and take one more shot at it on my own?" So he put the check in the back of his safe. He locked it up real good, and he said, "I'm going to try one more time. I'm going to try to work harder. I'm going to try to haggle harder. I'm going to try to make better deals. I'm going to reach a little bit farther, try to find a customer out there. And at least now I know if I can't make it, I've got this check that'll bail me out." So off he went. And he did. He negotiated harder. He took more risks because he was less afraid of failure. Now he was motivated not by fear, not by defeat, not by depression, but by joy and elation. He said, "Maybe I can make it one more time on my own." He had hope. And that made all the difference. Within a few months, his business was growing faster than ever. It was booming. He had paid off his debts. He had tons of new customers. He'd hired a bunch of new employees. He'd bought a new warehouse to store all the new tools that he was needing to do all these jobs. His business was growing, and he'd been so busy he'd forgot about this check buried in the back of his safe. And one day, as he was just thinking about how good things were going, he went, "Oh, right. That was the day it turned around," and he remembered that check still sitting there in the back of his safe. And he went, "I don't need this anymore." He said, "I need to return this." He said, joy. He's like, I did it. I don't need a bailout. I don't have to take the bailout. I can give this back to Andrew Carnegie. But he's like, "But I don't even know where to find him." And so he started looking just right where he'd met him the first time. He went back to that same park, and he's walking around thinking, what are the chances he's going to be back here in the same park the same time I am, you know? But he thought, I don't know where else to look. And so, to his amazement, here comes the same guy walking up to him. And right as he's going up to this guy to say, oh my gosh, thank you so much, you saved my life, you saved my business, but I want to return this check to you, a nurse comes running up behind this guy and said, oh my goodness, thank God you found him. This crazy old bat keeps escaping from the home and telling people he's Andrew Carnegie. And he was there left holding the $100,000 check, now realizing that it was a fake check. But it still saved his life. He's ready to give up. Now he's doing great. And I heard that story and I understood it. If we don't believe that we're going to win, we can't. If we do believe that we can't fail, we'll succeed. It's easier said than done. But I saw it's happening in my life already. I said, you know what, I'm going to go for it. I'm going to go for the dream I've had. I don't want to work for some other company. I don't want to work for McDonald's. I want to start my own business. And all it took was for me to say, okay, God, I'm going to surrender to you. I'm going to stop playing video games like you told me. Absolutely no video games for a month. I'm like, God, that's hard. I already quit porn. I quit video games. I quit drugs. I mean, now I quit video games too. You know, I'm like, what am I going to do with all my time? Like, what am I going to do all day long? Like, wow, it's amazing. There's so many things that I've needed to do that I'm still behind on. And now I'm doing those things. It's incredible. Like, I'm cleaning my house. I was also freaking out. So I thought I was going to work at McDonald's. God told me to quit the truck driving job and go apply at McDonald's. And they offered me a job for $16 an hour, bringing me in as a manager. And that was not enough. I'm doing the math on that. And I'm like, that's still not really even going to pay my bills. But maybe it will just barely pay my bills. And then I'll be home and I can start working on my own project. You know, I can start fixing chainsaws and lawnmowers and making some money. And maybe I can get a lawnmower and try to mow lawns. And that's been a dream for a long time. Really, the dream is a lot bigger than that. Really, the dream is I want to start a car company and I want to make a $5,000 car. I want to bring back the Volkswagen Beetle, but in a modern way. I want to make a car for Americans that people can afford to buy with cash and own it and fix it and drive it around cheap. And I'd also like to make a supercar, you know, but let's start with what actually matters, okay? Let's start with what would actually help people. So, how do you get there? Well, starting small, you know, working on cars. How do you get there? Well, starting smaller, working on lawnmowers. And you don't have to start that small, but that's where, like, it's difficult to build credibility as a mechanic, because to build credibility, you have to fix something. And most people need their car, especially the way times are right now. People aren't taking a risk on their motor. All right, they're like, look, man, I don't have a lot of money, but I can't afford to lose my car. And so they don't trust a stranger that they don't know. And there's so many liars, there's so many hacks, there's so many scams, there's so many people who think they know and they just don't. And that's something that I've been learning slowly, you know, since I was 8 years old, is, you know, I very quickly learned how to take things apart. And from 8 to 18, you know, it took a lot of hard lessons for me to learn what not to take apart, to learn only how to take apart things that I can put back together better or the same, not just take it apart and go, oh shit, excuse my language. But, you know, so that was a long, hard road. But now, 10 years after that, like, I'm able to do it. And I'm wise enough, just barely, to most of the time be able to say, hey, that one's beyond me. You know, what was it? There was something the other day somebody was asking me about to fix their car, and I was like, no. I was like, you got to take that to somebody else. But most things I can do. And so it's amazing that within a month of hearing that story about Andrew Carnegie, um, I don't have $1 million check sitting in the back of my safe. But I've got something even better. I got Jesus watching my back. I have a God who cannot fail. I have a God of abundance. I have a God of provision. Connor asked me one time, he said, "Do you believe that God provides all that you need?" I'm like, "Yes, I believe that God provides all that we need. Yes, I do. I believe that God has not abandoned us. He provides what we need." He said, "Do you believe that God will always provide everything that you need?" And at the time, like, I'd had no job for a year. I was in a bad hole. I was frustrated. I was angry with God. All I knew is I didn't want to work at McDonald's, but I screwed up the truck driving thing. And I said, "Yeah, I believe that God will always provide what I need. I believe that. That's what God said he will do. That's what he's done. I'm still eating. I still have a roof over my head. My cat is happy and healthy. $1,000 to get her a echocardiogram, ultrasound of her heart, because there was some real concerns. I didn't have it, but God put the love in my mom's heart to say, okay, this is crazy, but we'll pay $1,000 to see if your cat's heart has a problem. And I really, truly believed that there was a problem. God said, if you pray about it, I will heal her. He said, take her there, pray about it, and I will heal her. And we brought her there, and they said, yeah, there's a little funny thing, but we think she's just fine. She's going to be just fine. Bring her back in a year, and we'll check it again. And I went, and she seemed like not okay for a while. She seemed like not herself. She was showing the signs of, like, being lethargic and not eating and all the things that can indicate heart problems in a cat. But those are, hard to, I don't know. Like, she was doing the things they said that would happen if her heart was failing. And then she was better. And then we took her there, and they were like, looks a little funny, but she's just fine. And that was enough for me to hear from God, like, he did it. Like, he did. This is the thing that blows my mind. Like, I've heard this 1,000 times. People say, where is this God? Not 1,000 times, but I've heard people say, where is this God who brings back the dead to life and who heals in miraculous ways? Like, why did Jesus come and heal all these people and now he just doesn't? I'm like, well, you can say that, but I know somebody who's died twice and she's still breathing. And if that's not bringing the dead back to life, I don't know what is. I mean, people are like, oh, the hospital did that. Really? The hospital checked her in dead and then they just magicked her back to life? That's how hospitals work? Because, wow, thank you, God, for giving us amazing hospitals. Yeah. Thank you, God, for giving us the power to heal. Because that used to be just impossible. It used to be when somebody died, they were dead. And I think that that's still the case. I don't think that's really changed. I think that God still does miracles. They just usually happen in a hospital because that's where we bring people when they're dying. Think about it. And I mean, I've heard so many stories. Somebody had terminal cancer and the doctors said you've got 2 weeks to live. And 2 weeks later they came back and they're like, that's weird. The cancer's gone. They're like, yeah, we've been praying for it pretty hard. Like that, God still does that. And I don't mean to be cocky about it. Like, we need to be humble. We need to be grateful. And I don't understand why God doesn't always. Please don't ask me. Other than what I can tell you is he's wise and I'm not. He knows and I don't. Why does God do it sometimes and not other times? Because God knows what's best. Why is what's best not always what we want? Because we don't know what's best. So, I just wanted to share that. That story about the guy who met Andrew Carnegie. He knew he couldn't fail because he had a safety net to fall back on. Well, Connor asked me, do you believe that God provides all you need? I said, yes. He said, do you believe that God will always provide all that you need? I said, yes. He said, so if we believe that we always have what we need and God will always provide more, He'll always provide everything that we need, then essentially all of the tangible resources we have in this life are infinite. If I always have what I need and I always will have what I need, then I can count on everything I need I'll have. And so essentially everything I have is infinite. And he said, then are we living like our resources are infinite? And are we giving like our resources are infinite? Ooh, that's a hard one. No, I live a lot like I'm afraid. I live a lot like my God is weak. I live a lot like I don't trust Him. But hearing that story about Andrew Carnegie made me say, you know what? I've got better than $1 million check. I've got God. And I do trust Him. I do know that He is. He's good. I do know that He'll take care of me. I do know that He wants me to have more than what I've got. He wants me to not be under the thumb of somebody else. But I finally see it. He said, rise up, take courage, and walk. And the guy did. But if he had said, no, I'm afraid, it might hurt. If he said, I can't walk, my leg is broke, would he have walked? If he didn't rise up, if he didn't take courage, if he didn't take a step, would he have walked? Even if his leg was healed. And so I'm seeing that, like I'm understanding it a little better. I'm blown away by it. Rise up, take courage, and walk. I give that card out to people all the time, but I'm finally starting to do it. And so, with the first $500 I made, working with Daniel doing some roofing, and working for Bill on his farm. So that was the thing. So I had applied at McDonald's. They offered me the job, and then they just never gave me a start date. I had quit my truck driving job to work there. And that wasn't working out anyways, but now I'm really, and it hurt my pride. But see, sometimes, God works all things for the good of those who believe, even my own brokenness. It hurt me. I'm like, you know what, McDonald's? I don't really want to work there anyways. I was like, I don't want to be treated this way. And I went, shit, I got to pay my bills. How am I going to face my mom and say, Mom, McDonald's won't hire me. I need to pay my rent again for the 19th time in a row. Ooh. And by the way, I had a job, but I quit. Yeah. So I'm like, I got to work harder. And for what it's worth, it didn't happen right away. Like, this is where the world just kicks you when you're down. I'm out there in the field working with Bill, and the landlord texts me. They're like, did you pay your rent 2 months ago? I'm like, yes, fucking I did. Excuse my language. I'm like, yes, I did. And then I'm like, Mom, can you get the receipt from when we paid my rent 2 months ago? And she's like, a month ago? And I'm like, no. And she's like, I don't see it. My bad. Turns out I had told my mom not to pay my rent. And so she didn't. And then I didn't either. And I didn't get paid. And they didn't notice for a while. Or they did and they didn't say anything. But whatever. I'm like, yeah, wow, now I'm really screwed. But it just motivated me to work harder. And so I was like, maybe I can get in touch with that guy with the roofing company that was thinking about giving me a job a while ago. He said he could use some help, and wow, that's been going great. But so I took the first $500 that I made, and I was going to go out and buy a lawnmower because my mom needed a lawnmower, and she's been paying my rent. So I've really wanted a lawnmower. I'm not going to get into that all right now. But I had really desperately begged my mom to buy me a lawnmower for $500 so I could go out and try to start a lawn mowing business. And it really hurt. She's been pretty clear that she just didn't believe I could do it. I'm like, that breaks my heart, Mom. People come here illegally with no citizenship, no driver's license, no car. They manage to get a lawnmower and a vehicle and go out and mow lawns and start a lawn care business. Like, I've already got the car. and a driver's license for now. God, we're praying for that thing that's going to happen in 2 days from now, that you're going to let me keep on serving you, God. And I know that you're going to let me keep on serving you, but I pray that you would let me keep on serving you with my driver's license. Amen. And I believe that he will. He's told me to use it for good and use it more responsibly, and I believe he's seen that. I know he's seen that I've improved so much, and I've done what he asked me to do, he says, so he's going to do it for me. But yeah, but a year ago, my mom said she didn't believe I could start a lawn mowing business. She wasn't going to give me the $500 to buy a lawnmower. She was going to pay my rent for $725 and pay my taxes for $5,000 and pay for Annabelle's vet for $1,000. And I'm like, look, it would be a lot cheaper for you if you helped me get an income so that I could pay these bills. But respectfully, she doesn't have to help me with that. But now I'm like, you know what? If McDonald's won't hire me, I guess I've got no choice. And if God is with me, then I guess I cannot fail. And if I have God, that's more than $1 million check from Andrew Carnegie. And so I was going to buy a lawnmower, but my mom needed a mower. It's been a whole thing. They're getting a little too experienced to mow the lawn with a push mower, and I'm not going to do it no more. I've talked to him about it. We always have disagreements about it, and very short story. I don't know how to mow a lawn badly. I don't understand how I can always, every single time, do it wrong. But most people think I do just fine. So I figure I'm going to work for somebody else mowing their lawn. But I love my mom, and I love her partner, who's really been good to me too. So I was like, look, they need a riding mower. What they need is a lawnmower that drives itself around the lawn. Like, I've been saying for a little bit here. And so, but I get it. It's hard. They're not good at buying vehicles on Craigslist. It's really stressful for them. I get it. If you don't have the skills to just look at something and determine whether it's good or not, it's really nerve-wracking to buy some broken old lawnmower from Facebook Marketplace, because you might just be throwing your money away. But so, and I thought about it, and I went, it's going to be a lot easier if I just go buy the mower. And so I was looking, message some people. I had some money in my hand, and I was like, all right, I'm going to try to buy a lawnmower today. And God said, not one. He said, buy 3 lawnmowers today. I had messaged 4 different people about, could I come look at your mower today? And God said, buy 3 lawnmowers today. I'm like, God, I've got $500. They're asking $300, $200, and $250. And I'm like, that's, math is not just adding up there. But I went, okay, well, again, like, if God told me buy 3 mowers, like, I'm a little nervous here. I'm like, I have to obey God. And I heard it so clearly from God. He said, buy 3 mowers. And I'm like, all right. He said, buy 3 mowers today. I'm like, I've got $500. Like, I literally delayed my cell phone bill so that I could take that money out of the bank that was there to pay my phone bill. What else? And just to get $500, I took the money out of my debit account. Like, my credit card bill was coming. I took that money out. I had some refunds come in on my credit card, and so I could use that for gas, for like 1 or 2 tanks of gas. And everything I had pulled up together, I had just about $500. And that was all I had. And how am I going to explain to my mom, like, Mom, I can't pay my rent. I don't have a job. I quit the truck driving job. McDonald's won't hire me. And guess what? Here's a lawnmower that don't work. That's what I spent all my money on. And, but I walked in faith. I said, okay, God told me to buy 3 mowers today. That's what I'm going to do. So the first mower, he wanted $300. I talked him down to $200. He helped me load it. He was a good guy. God told me to give him another $20. I'm like, bam, score. That went so well. All right. Now I've got, oh shit. I'm like, now I have $280 the mowers are up for 250 and 200. How am I gonna? So the next one, I went there, and this guy wanted 250, and I had already kind of looked at it, and I went, the third one doesn't run at all, so I could probably get that for 100. But maybe not. Maybe I'm gonna have to go a little higher than half what they're asking. And so I'm like, so I counted it out and I prayed about it, and I got out of the car at the second place with $165. Now, mind you, there was another one posted up for like 145, 150, but that one was really bad. I'm like, if worse comes to worse, I can buy that one and the broken one. I mean, the two broken ones that didn't run at all. And I'll buy 3 mowers like God told me to do. But so he was a good man of God. God was with us. I said, look, can you take 150 or 125? I think I started with. He was like, no way. He was like, no, absolutely not. I was like, okay. He's like, I bought it for 200. I put a battery in it for $50. It sat in my yard for a year, and now I want $250 for it. And I'm like, unfortunately, that's not how that works. Like, I understand your perspective, but the fact that you didn't ride it for a year, the fact that you just sat here for a year, does not make it go up in value, and unfortunately, it does not make it the same value. And if you bought it for working for $200 and you put a battery in it, and then it sat here for a year, unfortunately, it's now worth less than $200. Welcome to this thing we call life, where the rust and the moss take away all our valuables. Luckily, we can store some good ones in heaven. We store what matters up there. But I said, look, like, all I have is $165. I respect if you don't want to take that for it. I get it. But he was like, you know what? I don't know when somebody else is coming to buy it. He's like, I'll take it. So the problem was I had a trailer that wasn't big enough for the first riding mower, and it was already on there. It was hanging off the front, the back, and the sides. And I went, unfortunately, I can't actually take this mower with me today. I'm like, can I come back tomorrow? He's like, yes, okay. So I gave him the money, just trusted him. And off I go to get the third mower. Well, so then I took that mower to my mom's house, and then off from there, by 10:30 at night, I get to the third mower. And like, I thought, I just kept moving the time back and back and back. I told him like 3 o'clock I can head there. And then lots of other things happened. And so I finally get there at 10:30. And it doesn't run, but it looks good. And they're like, we were riding it, it cut off. And it sat ever since. I'm like, that's probably an easy fix in my mind. But they also knew that much. And I said, will you take 100 for it? They were like, no. $200 or no deal. And maybe I could have tried to haggle, but I understood that it wasn't her mower. It was her dad's mower, and he said $200 or no deal. So haggling with her was kind of a waste of everybody's time. And it looked good. Like, it looked like a $500 mower, but just if it was running. And so maybe this video is way too in-depth, but this is a testimony of what God has done for me. And what can be done when we just walk with that $1 million check of God's faithfulness in our pocket. I'm like, he said buy 3 mowers today. And I'm getting in my car because I told him, look, I literally only had $130 left. That's all I had left in my pocket. I didn't have $200. And so I'm like, well, I guess I got to go and pray about it, and I'll let you know. I didn't know what else to do. And I'm getting in the car to leave, and I just remember, I'm like, God told me buy 3 mowers today. I'm like, how am I going to make this happen? And so I got back out of the car. They were just walking in their door. I was like, hey, look, how about this? I'll give you $130 today. I'll come back tomorrow with the other 70. They said, okay. So I did it. I had $500. I bought 3 mowers. Wow. 3 riding mowers. Now, one of them works. There's a whole nother video about the John Deere. But my mom's got that now. They mowed the lawn with it. It worked. It mowed the whole lawn. They said, yeah, it kind of steers. They said, you mentioned the steering wasn't very good. It kind of steers like a boat. I'm like, that's after we fixed it. And maybe it could be improved a little bit. But, yeah, it's an old lawnmower. They said the turning circle is not very good. It's really not very good. But instead of going back and forth, you just got to go around the outside in a circle, so you never need a very good turning circle. I went and got the Cub Cadet. That one runs and drives and the blades spin, but the brakes don't work, and I crashed it into a boat, and that one needs a little bit of work and love. And then the third one, I didn't realize the back tires are totally shot, but I don't know, it's probably $100 worth of tires. By the time I'll have that one going, I'll probably have $300 into it, but it's a decent mower with 130 hours on it. Maybe I'll use that one to mow lawns for the lawn care business. I like the Cub Cadet, but it's old. So anyways, that's enough about the lawnmowers. My point is just to say that how many times in the last year, if I had $500 in my pocket, my mom would give me $1,000 to pay bills. I would pay off my credit card. That was a good, responsible thing to do, but there was nothing stopping me from taking that money, leaving the debt on the credit card. $3,700 limit. I've got $1,000 on the card. I pay that off with $1,000. No, leave it there on the card. Take that. I could have taken that money, gone bought 3 lawnmowers, and gave my mom one and had 2 mowers. Because this is the thing. Like they were thinking about buying one for $500, which is a fair price. But I got them a good working one. And 2 for me for that. God did, not me. And that's where, there's no chance. I would have gone and bought the first one. If he hadn't told me buy 3 mowers today, I probably would have gone and bought that first one for $300 and gone home. But with God in my pocket, I'm like, I can't pay $300. I'm going to have to haggle here. $300 is off the list for me. And the other thing is, I'm like, I know if God told me to do it, it's possible. And that's why when I was driving out of that last driveway, I guess I failed. I only bought 2 mowers. I'm like, God made a way, or he wouldn't have told me to do it. God won't tell me to do something that I can't do. I mean, unless he's going to do a miracle. And so it worked. And I've been walking that way. I don't know a lot about roofing, but I've been trying to go, you know what? Let me think about it. Let me use my head a little bit. Let me work hard. Let me do a good job. And, when I don't know, let me ask the guy who's an expert right beside me, hey, what should I do next? But just instead of going at it like I'm a fool and saying I'm stupid, I don't know anything, it's too hard, saying God's given me what I need to do this job. It don't have to be, by psychic powers, it don't have to be totally impossible. It don't have to be as fast as, Jesus himself could put the nails in, but if I go up there and do, and there's some fear involved. I don't know if you've ever walked on a roof that's steep. Some roofs are not steep. Some roofs are steep. The first one we did was very not steep. It was easy. It was like walking on the floor. But then the next one is steep, and once you take off the shingles, it's slippery. Plywood's not so bad, but you put this paper stuff on it, and it's not that grippy. And then you put metal on top of the paper on this one, and it's not that grippy. And so it's but instead of saying, oh man, no way I'm doing this, saying God has made a way. There is a way. All right. And it's working. It's working. And, that's the attitude I need to go into everything in life with, that God has made a way. Monday I'm going to court for reckless bike speed, 123 in a 60-mile-an-hour zone that happened over a year ago, and we're still... I don't even want to get into the details, but I went to court. My mom and her partner had hired me a good lawyer. We thought. He didn't do anything. He did a horrible job. He asked for them to reduce it to excessive speed, which apparently doesn't exist and isn't possible in Virginia. So they didn't. They just convicted me. I didn't even get a chance to say. I had told the guy, I want to say to the judge, look, I'm sorry. I understand I made a mistake, but please don't ruin my whole life and my career, because driving is my job. It's my income. Not to mention, if my license is suspended, I can't get to a grocery store. I live on the side of a highway, 20 miles from one town and 20 miles from the other. What am I supposed to walk down the highway for 20 miles to go to work? That just doesn't seem practical. I'm like, really, that's a punishment for my mom. She's got to come and bring me food and clean my clothes, and I'll just sit here for 6 months. That sounds awful for me, but it sounds more like a punishment for her and a vacation for me. It's not I don't know. I sat here for a long time, and it sucks. In some ways, it's worse than jail, truly. Now, in some ways, it's a lot better than jail. I get to have my cat with me. I get to have internet access. The phone is free. And I do get to go some places and have fun and see my family. And so, don't get me wrong. Overall, it's better than jail. But in some ways, it's worse than jail. Like in jail, somebody brings you food. Somebody washes your clothes. Somebody washes your dishes. Somebody cleans the toilet. Like, I have to figure that out with no money, The roommates aren't any better here either. So, but we're not going to get into that. We're just going to say love your neighbor, even when it's hard, even when they don't deserve it, because Jesus loved us. But also, there's a time to speak the truth. There's a time to stand up, and I don't know the difference. You got to pray about it yourself. I'm learning that difference, and it's been really powerful. It's been really enlightening for me to see how to do that. So yeah, I've been walking with that new faith. I've been walking with that new joy. I've been walking with that powerful belief that God is with me, and I can't fail. I mean, I can. Like, I can. That's even better than to say I can't fail. Is to say, if I fail, it'll be fine. Like, like, if I fall off the roof, God will protect me. I'm not being reckless. I fell down these stairs over here, and they're steep. One day I came home from church, and I was kneeling right at the top of the stairs, and I was praying, God, bring her home. God, bring her home. And he said, reach up, and I reached up, and I was tired, and I hadn't been hydrating. I don't know, but I mean, it was more than that. Like, this was the Holy Spirit just did some amazing stuff I didn't understand, but it helped me. But so I'm kneeling, and I reach up towards the ceiling, and I've got it on video. I'll find it at some point, and I'll talk about that. But I've got it saved on video, but I just, reached up, and I just blacked out, fell backwards, rolled over down the stairs, and woke up at the bottom. And let me tell you, I woke up feeling new. I woke up feeling refreshed and rejuvenated. I wasn't even very sore. There was a little bit of bruising, but, I could have just cracked my neck right in two on the way down. Like, I went backwards and then flipped over. It even just, acting that out hurt my neck. But it didn't. It really didn't. And, it was amazing. That's the other thing. I've been looking for my key. I lost my key. It was Pastor Bruce's last sermon for a time. Pastor Bruce, I think he's retired 2 or 3 times. I don't know. He's been preaching. I don't know if he's retired now or not, but he's been preaching, which is awesome. But it was his last day at Lebanon, and I was supposed to go, but I had lost the key to my motorcycle, and that was when I didn't have a car. And I could not find it anywhere, and so he came and gave me a ride, and I got to ride there with him, and he drove me home, and I came home, and I came up the stairs to pray for Marilyn, and it was sitting right there. The key was sitting right there on the floor. And I found the key, and I was praying, and I reached up, and I blacked out, and I tipped over down the stairs. And I was fine. Literally, I woke up at the bottom, according to my security camera, maybe lay there for 10 seconds, just out cold, like I was dead. And I had no idea what happened. It took me a minute to figure out, why was I laying on the floor at the bottom of my stairs. But I got up feeling new, feeling refreshed, feeling full of life like I had never felt. And I cannot explain that. That's what God can do. All right? I'm like, God, why did you throw me down the stairs? But I don't really need an answer other than what I learned that day is He protects me. He'll always protect me. He can drop me. Let me hit the ground at the bottom. Fully intact, fully alive, and better off than I was at the top of the stairs. So when I've seen that, when I've experienced that, it's easier now to walk in that faith and to say, God, you are good. You make a way. You've got a way. And to say, look, I'm going to go after it. I'm not just going to, I'm trying to think of a more civil term. I'm not going to just chicken foot around, So I'm going to go for it. I'm going to go for it. And I've been going for it just for the last couple of weeks, and it's working. And I'm so grateful. And so that's what I wanted to share today, is walk like you've got $1 million check in your back pocket. But don't just stop there. Walk like you've got God himself backing you up, because you do. Because he is. And if you start walking like it, you'll start seeing it. Something somebody else said is, if you walk through the day just trying to get through the day, just looking down, never looking up, you're never going to see the fruit that's up here. You're never going to reach for it. If you walk through the day looking up, aiming high, like I'm going to find it today, I'm going to go for it, I'm going to win it, I'm going to achieve it, you're going to see this fruit that's up here and you're going to go, that's it, that's what I'm going to do today, and you're going to reach up and grab it. And if it's too high, you're going to go get a ladder. And if it's still too high, you're going to get a stick and you're going to swat at it until you get the stick. I'm working on my language. Until you get the fruit, all right? You're going to go for it. Like if you say, like, look, God is going to give me the fruit today, it's going to happen. And I remembered that there was a day that my dad was there in church beside me, which was crazy. But I invited him to go with me, and he agreed to go with me. And it was awesome. And I think it was even maybe a Father's Day thing. I'm not sure. But I remember the pastor saying, God is going to meet you at your level of expectation. If you decide this is a breakthrough today, then it's going to be a breakthrough. If you decide that I'm going to leave here unchanged, then you're going to leave here unchanged. And I said, God, this is it. This is a breakthrough today. And it was. It was. I said, the breakthrough for me that day was, I don't care if my dad thinks I'm a fool. I'm going to sing and worship and praise just like I do every other day. I don't care if he thinks I'm a weirdo for singing louder than anybody else in this place. That's me. That's what I do. Like, I want my dad to see it. I don't want my dad to see me faking it. I want to see him experience it. And if he's not going to, that's between him and God, Like, I'm in no part in that conversation. But I said my breakthrough was, I don't care if even my dad thinks I'm crazy. I don't care if everybody in here thinks I'm crazy. I am. I'm crazy for Jesus. And it works. That was a breakthrough that day. And so that's the other thing. Like if we go out and we say, God, you're going to pick me up today. You're going to move me up in life like he does. If we go out and say, God's not going to come through for me, he's going to wait until we have that faith. Because the other thing that I know and I've come to understand and experience is, with great power comes great responsibility, and with great heights comes greater falls. All right? That if you stand on the ground, you can only fall so far. But once you start climbing skyscrapers, like, it's a little scarier up there. And when you fall, it hurts more. I don't climb skyscrapers, but you understand the analogy. That once you start doing well, you got a lot more to lose. And I know that will be a day that comes in my life, I know that I'm 28. Annabelle's like 12 or 13. 75 is pretty good life for a human. 14 is pretty old for a cat. There's going to be a hard day, all right? That best case scenario, I outlive my mom and my dad. Well, best case scenario, we all live forever. But you know what I mean, in this life. That the bill is 70. Best case scenario, 40, 50 years from now, I'm going to be 80 and I'm going to be missing Bill. That's coming either way, that's coming either way, y'all. And this, I don't mean to take it to a dark place, because it's not. Like my granny over there in Dublin, she's not worried about herself. The family's always worried about her. She's fine, first of all. I mean, she's not an Olympic athlete, but she walks herself around and gets to church just fine, and she doesn't seem stressed about it. She's 85. She doesn't seem stressed about it. And I know, because she wakes up every day and she goes, God, maybe it's today. She's not afraid to die. She's worried about us, especially some of the other family members. And that's a hard place to be, but we can rejoice in our certainty of salvation. We can rejoice that we know we're saved. We don't have to worry. We don't have to fear death. We don't have to fear hell. We don't have to fear sin. And that's something that's like the hardest one for me is like I've never been afraid to die. I wanted to kill myself for a long time. Now I find out life is good and after that is heaven. I'm not afraid to die at all. But skin still scares me. You know, like I'll be honest about that. I'm afraid of people. I'm afraid of squirrels. Like, what if the squirrel doesn't want to be my friend? What if he thinks I'm an asshole? Like, I'm afraid of sin. I'm afraid of my own sin. Like, what if this sin takes me down? What if my temptation? What if my lust? What if my greed? What if my selfishness? What if it takes me down? What if it takes me away from God? And then, like, he just keeps reminding me, like, neither death nor life nor the powers of principalities of hell, not anything can take us that can separate us from the love of God. I'm like, not even my sin? Like, listen, we must remain connected. John 15, stay connected to the vine or you'll wither and die and be thrown into the fire. We have to choose to stay connected to God. But if we're fighting our best fight to stay with him, nothing can stop us, even our own failures, our own faults and mistakes. And so if we can walk in this life with that kind of encouragement in our hearts, in our knowing, like in certainty, like in the head, in the heart, in the spirit, then we can overcome anything. I know a guy, I don't know him personally, but when I was getting baptized in Vicksburg, Mississippi, Pastor Curtis, I don't know if he prefers Pastor Curtis, but I'm going to go with Pastor Curtis. Pastor Marvin Curtis, Vicksburg, Mississippi. He told the whole church he was talking about. One of the members of the church, he said, he's not here today. He's not with us today. He was walking down the road and somebody came up and put a gun to him. I don't know, his head or his chest, but pointed a gun at him and said, "Give me your money or I'm going to shoot you." And kind of thought about it for a second, He didn't know what to do. I mean, as a man of God, that would put me in a tricky situation because I'd be angry, I'd be scared, and I'd be like concerned about this other guy. And the Holy Spirit stepped in. This guy, apparently, he didn't let the fear in. He let the Holy Spirit out. And he said to this other man, he said, "Are you threatening me with heaven?" He said, "Are you telling me you're about to send me to paradise?" Apparently the other guy didn't know what to do. He wasn't really sure. Robbery had never gone that way for him. He's like, this guy's clearly not going to give me his wallet. Take it, he went home to reevaluate his life. What an amazing God we serve, but that's what we can do with faith. That's what we can do when we walk like we've got $1 million check in our back pocket, hidden at home in the safe. But don't keep it hidden at home in the safe. Walk like it's already in your hand. Walk like our resources are infinite. And you don't have to do it perfectly today or tomorrow. But I've been doing it just a little bit more than I used to. And wow, the results are happening. I'm happy. I'm smiling. I'm getting a good workout in every day. I'm getting enough to eat. I'm enjoying it. I'm living my dream. I'm one step along on a dream that I never started. And let me tell you, being one step into it, being 2 steps and 3 steps into it feels 10,000 times better than being on step 0 for day after day after day. Bill did me such a solid favor. He said, "You could put the lawnmowers here at my place, but something has to be happening with the lawnmowers." He's like, "What's your plan?" I'm like, "Well, my plan is this one's going to, I don't know, go back to my mom probably. And then the other ones, I'm either going to fix them and mow lawns with them or I'm going to fix them and sell them." And he's like, still a little bit on the fence. He was like, "Well, look, I pay you to mow my lawn today because my lawnmower broke." I'm like, "Look, if the lawnmowers are here, you can use them as much as you want." He was like, "Deal." But what I remember, the one rule that he gave me was something has to be happening with the lawnmowers. And so I'm like, okay, the only way I'm allowed to keep the lawnmowers, and he's not hounding me about it, but I'm like, the only way that I can keep my end of this deal is something has to happen with the lawnmowers. And so I've set a goal like every day, something has to happen with the lawnmowers. Even if it's a really small thing, even if it's like I read about the lawnmower on the internet. Something happened with the lawnmower, you know. Yesterday, I didn't even go to Bill's place. But I did get a third lawnmower and work on that at home a little bit. Something happened with the lawnmowers. You know, my mom mowed the lawn with her one. You know, we got it there, we fixed it, it worked. I took it back to my mom's house. She mowed the lawn with it. Something happened with the lawnmowers. But, you know, and it's great to know that he's not going to just, you know, if there's a day that goes by that maybe I'm sitting in jail and nothing happens with the lawnmowers, that's okay, you know. But it made my goal, it motivated me to say, you know what, my goal is every day that these mowers are here, something is going to happen. And today it's probably going to be look up what's it cost to get tires for the one that needs tires. Something happened with the lawnmowers, you know. Even, you know, I've already, something happened with the lawnmowers today. I looked at buying a fourth lawnmower, but I'm kind of out of budget at the moment. Fifth lawnmower, sixth lawnmower. So right now, it's kind of getting out of hand. And this is where faith gets scary. All right, faith gets really scary because I'm like, okay, my mom's got a mower. That's good. That's huge. But now I have one mower that runs and drives and mows, but it not well enough you can mow the lawn with it, and the brakes don't work. I got another mower that doesn't do anything, and I've got a third mower I just bought, like a fourth mower that doesn't work at all, has no compression, but it's like a $1,500 push mower that I got for $45, and so I'm like, that can't be a bad deal. And then I've got another lawnmower that I tried to lend to Wissam. I did lend to Wissam, and that didn't go so smooth. I was like, it doesn't always run properly. He's like, yeah, I took it apart. I'm like, I don't. When I dropped it off there, it would start on the first pull and it wouldn't always run properly. I guess he had a bad experience with it. So, you know, there's ups and downs. And right now where I'm at is like, look, if I get to the end of the month, you know, if I do 2 weeks in jail and I got 2 weeks to try to pay my rent, which I don't think is going to happen. I don't think God is going to put me in jail for 2 weeks. I know there's some people that want that to happen, but my God is greater. My God is stronger. My God is higher than any other, and He's already made a way. The last time when I was going into court, I put my background on my phone. It said, "Fear is what if, faith is even if," and I'm still living that way. Faith is even if they do, because they did last time. They just straight up convicted me. They said you have 10 days to appeal. On the 11th day, I submitted my appeal. They said, you can't go to jail. You're not allowed to go to jail now because you appealed. I'm like, what? No, I asked you to. I literally asked the court, can I go to jail first, and then can we have the appeal after I go to jail? Because I wanted to go back and say, look, you know, I'm sorry. I've done my punishment, but please don't ruin the rest of my life. They said, nope, you're not allowed in jail because you're not found guilty of a crime, because as soon as you appeal, it undoes the whole thing. I'm like, that's interesting. There's also, your license is unsuspended. It was suspended for like 11 days. So again, I don't have to be afraid of what they do. You know, they're not being fair. They're not treating me fairly, and I don't want to get into that. This is not that video. But what God did promise is the weapon will form against us, that in the world we will find trouble, that they will treat us worse than they treat Him, worse than they treated Jesus, who they called the Prince of Demons. They're not going to always be good to us. But He has overcome the world. And so faith says, even if they don't let me speak, they don't give me any kind of chance to defend myself or to tell my side of the story, God saw the truth. God sees the truth. He knows. And I'm taken care of. So Lord, I just praise You. I love You, God. I had a lot more to say today than I thought. I got to really sleep. Oh, because I'm getting up early in the morning. Thank You, Lord. But I just see it. Like, I'm looking at me, I took a shower. Like, I worked all day. I took a shower. And there's joy in my eyes. My hair is shiny. And, I know she's coming home in time. And that's just one more thing. Like, it's amazing. Finally, God's been telling me to quit video games for a long time. Like, don't play any video games at all. And I'm like, not even Minecraft? Not even, like, good, wholesome, like, Chai Robo? He's just a little robot. You go around and clean the floor. Like, that can't possibly be a sin, God. And he's like, sin is to do intentional disobedience. Sin doesn't have to be one of the 10 commandments. Sin is to know what God wants you to do and choose to do something else. So yes, it is. If God tells you don't brush your teeth, make sure it's God, But if God tells you, we don't know, God told one of his prophets, he said, lay on your side and cook your food over poop, and don't move for almost a year. And people tell me, when I say, like, God told me to give all my money away. They're like, God would never tell you to do that. That's not something God would do. That doesn't even make sense. And I'm like, have you read the Bible? Like, God told Moses, I want you to build a giant boat in the middle of the desert. Moses was like, all right, that's what we're doing. Anybody who says, like, if it doesn't make sense to me, then it's not God's will, they've lost the plot. God said, lead not on your own understanding, but in all ways submit to me, and I will guide you. God told one of his servants, he said, that guy that's going around murdering you and your friends and all of my followers and everybody who loves Jesus? He's like, yeah. You know how he became blind and that made it way harder for him to kill you with a sword? I'm like, yeah. He said, go give him his sight back. Go heal him so he can see again. Do you think if Ananias, I struggle with names, but do you think that if that man went around and he asked the other followers at the time, like if he went to even John and Peter and Paul, and he said, hey, do you think I should go heal that guy's sight? Do you think they would say, yes, do it? Or do you think they would have said, I'm not sure that's God who told you to do that. I'm not sure that God would want us to help him murder us. Like that's valid. That's totally valid. But like, look, this is what I'm saying. Listen to God, not to man. And so if God tells you to do something, and it was God, and that's what he's telling you to do, and you don't do it, that's wrong. And so I was like, really, even the good, wholesome video games? And finally, I surrendered it. I said, okay, God. And what I found out is, he was just waiting for me. He had all these things in place, and I can see it now. Like, I could have done this a year ago. But I wasn't ready. Like, my heart wasn't ready. He needed me to get to the point where I said, okay, God, I'll give you everything. He said, okay, I'm going to start fixing it for you too. And there I was, sitting up on the roof, looking out at this beautiful lake, thinking about going swimming, cooking hot dogs and burgers. And I'm like, man, I'm making some money. I can just go do that anytime I want now. Like, my schedule is flexible. Like, that's awesome. That if there's a day I can't work, I just say, hey, sorry, I can't work on Tuesday. And it's like, all right. Like, look, but this is the thing. Like, I want to be there. I want to be a part of the team. I want to do it. So it's not like, I also need money, but it's like, I had some drama going on at home. I'm like, sorry, I only got 2 hours of sleep. I don't think it's going to be helpful, productive, or safe for me to go up on the roof. And it was like, yeah. I was like, okay, well, when you coming back, and that's what it should be like. And we've really strayed away from caring about each other in America. But there I am, sitting looking out at the lake, just going, man, this is gorgeous. Man, I'm going to go have a good time. Life is good. And I'm like, It's so fucked up though. I'm like, I don't even want to go do it without her. I don't even want to go have a great time and know she's sitting there not having a good time. I'm like, it's so wrong. And I'm sitting there talking to God about it. I'm like, it's just so fucked up, you know? I'm not sorry for my language that time. I'm like, it's just so not right. I'm like, she even made having fun less fun. And I was a little angry, but I'm like, but really what it's about is I just miss her, you know? I'm like, I just feel like she ought to be here. I feel like she ought to be a part of this, you know? Apparently my dumbass didn't hear my phone ringing. I don't know how that happened. We're jamming out. That's the other thing. My boss plays all her favorite songs all day long. And that was hard the first few days. Um, Especially staring out of this beautiful lake, thinking about going swimming. I'm like, God, this just ain't right. I'm like, God, this is not how it's supposed to be. Shouldn't she be here? And I didn't even hear my phone was ringing. It was her calling. Of course, I can't call her back and say, sorry, I missed the call. But that's where I just got to have faith. I just got to walk in faith right now and say, like, look, God is speaking. He said he heard me. He said, don't give up. He said, she's thinking about you too. I also heard from him, let her think you're gone for now. But I get that. Sometimes, I'm just going to speak for myself here. Sometimes I have to think that I lost it all before I can really appreciate it and want it back and work for it. That was really my experience a long time ago, that I knew I'd lost her. I knew it was never going to come back. I knew I had screwed that up because I was on drugs, because I was selfish, because I didn't pay attention, because I didn't listen to her, because I didn't care about her. I just cared about me. I knew it was over. I knew it was never going to be fixed. I knew she was gone and she was happy with somebody else, and I had lost the greatest thing that ever happened to me. That hurt. But eventually, sitting with that pain was too much. And this is Pastor Bruce. He says, don't try to escape the negative emotions. He says, feel that feeling and let it change you. Stop trying to solve your pain. Stop trying to solve your anger. Stop trying to solve your sadness. Feel it. Just sit in it and let it, feel it. Embrace the feeling of pain, like emotional pain. I'm not saying hold on to a red hot coal. I'm not saying let anger control you. I'm not saying let sadness take over your heart. But I am saying experience the discomfort. Instead of trying to escape it, sit with it. Talk to God about it. Let it change you. And that it did. It changed me until I said, you know what? I need to fix me. I said, I'm never going to get her back. But I'm going to be better when another opportunity comes along. I'm not going to screw it up like this. And that motivated me to get better, to improve me. And I have so much. And she has too. But we both still have a long way to go. But that really motivated me to say, I got to do better. And it was just incredible to me when I'm sitting at home, ready to start the best job I'd ever started. Way faster and, better pay grade than I ever thought I would get to. In 3 months of truck driving, I was moving up to a company that required 2 years of experience. And I know that math doesn't make sense to anybody, but God can make a way. And I worked hard for it. I was able to go out there and bust it because I believed in me. And I had God to help. And both of those things were new, and it was amazing what combining those two could do about changing my life. And, the bills were paid. I had just gone out and bought a brand new motorcycle, and the cat was happy and healthy, and I was looking at buying a house. Not today, but looking at what's my plan, what's my 1-year plan to buy a house. And that was pretty cool. I prayed about it. I said, God, but I would trade it all just for somebody to share it with. And I guess in that moment, like, what I heard from God, he said, I'm going to do it for you because you're going to do it for me. And now that makes a lot more sense. What I heard from God, really, he was like, all right, good deal. I accept your offer. You'll trade it all for somebody who cares about you, and that's me. He said, but then I'm going to start giving you the desires of your heart. Trust in the Lord, wait patiently, do good, and rejoice in him, and he will give you the desires of your heart. Psalm 37. But that's where we have to do our part. He said, I'm going to do it for you because you're going to do it for me. You know, me being God. And I said, okay. And I got the story a little bit out of order. But that's okay. Really what it was is I prayed about it. I said, God, everything is so good. You've freed me from all the things that kept me down. You've given me the money. You've given me the job. You've given me the shiny motorcycle. The cat is happy. The bills are paid. Like, I'm living my dream. I'm doing what I want to do. I'm enjoying it. I'm moving up. I'm crushing it, God. But it's not me, but it's you. You gave me all this. And this is where, when we have the right heart and we ask with the heart like Jesus, like, we can get results like Jesus. And even when our heart's not perfect, we're still going to get what we need. We're still going to get what we ask for, but he's going to fix us first. Because I see it like I needed to be fixed before I could have what I wanted. Otherwise, it'd be like giving an 8-year-old a sport bike or a big machete. Like, it's just not. I know it's what he wants, but it's just not going to work out good. And so I prayed about it. I said, God, I hate to sound selfish or greedy, but you told me to be honest with you. I said, God, all this is not enough for me. This is not what I want. What I really want is I want somebody to share it with. And I said I'd trade it all just to have a family. And I still, with my head down, like within seconds of saying that prayer, my phone went off, and it was the last person I expected to hear from. And I just cried. I just wept. I said, God, really? Really, God? Like, just out of nowhere, she texted me. I hadn't heard from her for months. And I just bawled, and I was like, would you really do that for me? Would you really bring her back? Could you? Would you please? And I heard from God so clearly. He said, I'm going to do it for you because you're going to do it for me. And every day I'm understanding what that means a little bit more. Like, God accepted my offer. He said, you will give everything. I lost the trucking job. I lost the next job. I'm poorer than I've ever been in my life, and I'm working harder than I've ever worked. And I might be going to jail anyways. And she's not here. Last I heard from her was not, I love you and I can't wait to see you again. But it's making me stronger. It's making me more faithful. It's showing me what God can do. And I'm continuing to do my best to rise to his call. And he's doing it for me. One day at a time, he's changing me. He's making me into the man I need to be to have the desires of my heart. Because I get it now. If he had let her stay when I wanted, we would have killed each other. Hopefully not physically, but emotionally, we would have really done a lot more harm to each other than we already have. And God can heal, but he also can protect, and I'm grateful that he does both. I also see that I don't know how to put it, but I see that God had a lot of work to do on both of us. And he told me it was going to take a while. I remember asking God, how long is it going to be? I said, God, am I not ready? Am I not ready? Am I not ready to be a good man and have a family and do all those things? And I do also remember having a conversation with God where he said, look, if you want somebody right now, you can go find somebody else and I'll bless you. He said, or you can wait for the woman you really love. And I said, okay, I will. I'll wait for her, God. Whatever it takes. That was hard. And I said, God, am I not ready? Is it not? Do I not do enough? He said, you are ready. But you're going to have to be so much more ready. And I saw that. Like, if you want something special, you might have to work harder for it. I want a love that can't be shaken. And I see God building it. And he builds it one giant earthquake at a time. God builds love the same way that I build race cars. Not that I've ever really achieved that. But here's the technique. You drive it as hard as you can until something breaks, and then you make that part stronger. God has been putting us through the fire. Bringing the impurities to the surface and scraping them away. God has been letting us take more hits than we can handle. Seeing what cracks and then fixing that crack. But with something stronger than was there before. And that's awesome. And I see him doing it. I also prayed. We prayed together. God, don't bring us back together till we're ready. Don't let it. I prayed a lot, and I'm still praying. God, don't let us come back together until we're ready to make it work this time. We prayed together. God, show us what we need to change in us. She said, I want it to happen sooner. I want it to happen sooner. I want it to happen right away. I said, do you really mean that? She's like, yes. I'm like, are you willing to give anything for it to happen sooner? She's like, yes. I'm like, all right, here, we're gonna speed this up, but brace yourself. And I didn't know what we were in for myself. This is one of those, you get what you pray for moments, and if you pray big, you're gonna get big results. Well, I didn't realize how much work we still had to do. But I said, God, we want you to speed this up. God, we want it to happen faster. We don't want to take a break. We don't want a day off. We want you to work on us. God, reveal in us what we need to change for us to be ready for this love. Reveal in us what's broken, what's standing in the way, what you want to tear down before you're going to put it together. God, show us what we're doing that's stopping this from happening, and fix it. Help us fix it. And wow, did a lot come out that week. All right. I can't wait to hear her side of it someday, because I'm sure she saw a lot of things in me that were keeping us apart too. And I did as well. The two biggest things that I saw in me that came out that week were James, the tongue turneth the whole ship, You can't sit there yelling, screaming, and cussing at God all night long and wake up and say he's great and just think that that's enough, think that that's going to work. That when we say God ain't doing it, God ain't doing it, God ain't doing it, God is going to answer that prayer just like he answers the yes he will, yes he can prayer. Just what we prayed for. The other thing that I saw is I really wasn't doing a good job of listening. I was doing too much of trying to solve and trying to fix and trying to find a solution, and not enough of just caring for her. Anyways, I really need to sleep. Whew. Thank you, God. Lord, I hope this testimony is helpful to others. All right, God. Well, I don't know what to do. God is like, this is not the 5-minute video I told you to make. And I'm like, it's hard for me, God. I need to improve. Truly. I'm like, how do I stop? How do I just talk about God for 5 minutes? Because it's so much more than I ever realized. And I can just cut the first 5 minutes of this video out, but I don't know if that's all that needs to be said or shared. But anyhow, I'm sorry. I need to be more obedient. I need to sleep. I love you, God. Show us the way. In Jesus' name. Amen.